In this video, I'm going to walk you through a number of app editor shortcuts to help you move through your development more efficiently. The bigger your app gets, the more visual elements you'll have to manage, the more workflows there are with references to those visual elements, and the more dynamic expressions you have, and so on. So if you can navigate your editor quickly, you'll be able to spend more time on the aspects of development that matter most, compared to spending more time navigating your editor, just trying to get to your elements, especially when it comes to troubleshooting. So let's start with the first type of shortcut here. As you may have discovered already, there are many areas of your editor where you can right-click to access a menu of items. So these actions can be creating new things, editing things, deleting things, a lot of copy and paste functions. But the one that I want to point out here is the fact that you can reveal and go to other areas of your editor through this right-click window. Let me actually show you an example here in the workflow section. So if I right-click on a button and select reveal the element, Bubble will take me to that button and it's going to highlight it for me. Now, as I was actually scrolled up on the page, I'm going to show you one more time here. Right-click, reveal the element, and it's going to show me that button. I'm going to go into another one here, right-click, the login button, reveal, there it is, right? It actually revealed a different group that was kind of hidden or layered behind another group. And so that way it can help me find it. This is helpful if you have many elements that are designed similarly. They may even have the same name. That can prompt you to correct the naming so that they're more unique. Especially if you're troubleshooting and things are not triggering as you expect, you might actually have selected the wrong element to trigger the workflow. So by revealing it, it can help confirm to you what button is actually triggering this. It doesn't have to be buttons. It can also be inputs. So if you have, or text as we see here, right? Anything that is a visual trigger to trigger a workflow event, you can reveal it to see where that is coming from. Okay, now very similarly, you can also access these elements through expressions and the references in the expressions. So for example, in the sign up workflow, I have the sign up action and we're assigning the value of the email address input to the email field here, the value of the password input to the password field, and so on. Now I can right click on this expression and also reveal this element that's being referenced. In this case, it's this input. Okay, and so it will also show me that this one here, again, I was scrolled a little bit down, so it was going to kind of hide that highlighting for me. Let's do it again. Right there, yep. So this way it can show me exactly what's being referenced. Again, if you have inputs with the same name and you may have had a mix up there, that can help prompt you to relabel things and correct those references. Okay, so right-clicking on expressions, especially ones that reference other elements, whether they're inputs or other visual elements, is a great way to find things very quickly because you may not even be aware of what things are called or where they are living on the page. This is a great way to just find that quick connection. Very similarly to that as well, if you have a go to page action that takes you somewhere else in your application and you right click that particular action, Bubble will actually take you to the page. So if I reveal the element here, it's actually going to navigate me. I'm not clicking anywhere. It's going to take me automatically to that dashboard page since that's what I selected, which is also, again, helpful if you have many pages in your application and you don't want to go through kind of sifting through that list if it's a big list or going to the right folder. Okay, these sound like very minor steps to take where maybe it's not a huge difference, but I promise you with big applications that have many elements, it makes a huge difference to know these shortcuts so you can navigate through your editor much, much faster. All right, now we're also going to jump over to the logs tab because we have a similar right click capability, or I should say just a navigation capability. It's not through the right click. To jump to different areas of your application. So the logs, and especially here the second tab, server logs, is where all activity in your app is broken down. It will basically present every command that you've created in your workflows, whether they pass the condition or not, because it will say if the event condition failed, but it will still list it there as something that was prompted to happen. With the date and timestamps. Now, if you're using this as a way to troubleshoot, which is a fantastic tool for troubleshooting, and you're not really sure, what is button B referencing? Where are we making a change to a user? You can also click on those and Bubble will take you directly to it. It will navigate to the right page, go to the right workflow, highlight it for you so you can make any corrections if necessary versus having to guess where in your application these logs are referring to. Again, the bigger the app, the much more helpful these things are going to be. Okay, moving on to the next shortcut here, which is something to just be aware of. It actually doesn't even need any extra work on your part, but just something for you to know that's happening. When you're looking at your data types, okay, so you organize your types in the fields for those types, and you are selected on one of these types, let's say company. And then you jump over to the App Data tab to see the table for that data type. Bubble's actually going to automatically select that same type for you as the view. It makes it just kind of one less click for you to have to go through, because the idea is if you're currently looking at this data type and then you switch over to the app data, it's very likely that that's the table that you want to look at the entries for. And so you can see Bubble actually changes that for me automatically. Very helpful. Of course, if you if you've been working with your app data tab already, you might have already noticed that you can create modified views of these data types so that you can filter things down. And that's also helpful for troubleshooting. It's helpful for seeing data in a different way, especially if you have lots of different fields, if you have different fields with various relationships and you want to change the primary fields. Just be able to see your data that way. So for example, these job posts could have long descriptions. Maybe I don't want to see all the descriptions. I want to see my list of job posts, more at a time here. I can edit this view, turn off the descriptions, checkbox there, and I can relabel this view as job posts without descriptions. Like this. Now, I'm not filtering to see job posts that literally don't have descriptions. I just don't want to see that column. But you see here, this is my modified view. I'm not altering the original view in any way, nor if I delete this view, am I deleting any data. It's just deleting the view. Just look at the view as a filter, okay? And I can create constraints so that I'm only looking at job posts for, certain companies. Maybe I only want to look at the job post for City University, right? So it gives me a filtered view of that data. I could also rename this to say City Use Job Posts. I can sort my fields in a certain way, right? And so this just makes it easier for me to see the data that matters the most to me. Let's jump over to a quick organizational tip that has to do with keeping your option sets apart from your data types. When you're creating expressions and you're referencing option sets versus data types, they can look the same to you in those expressions. One best practice that we like to put in place here for naming option sets is just to put OS at the end, or maybe even at the beginning, or you could even use an emoji. Yes, you can insert emojis here. So let's say I have like an emoji, like a list or something, a document of some kind. So this emoji will actually show up for me everywhere in my application that is referencing this option set. So if you're consistent with your naming styles, whether it's with an emoji or some kind of a prefix or a suffix, to keep them apart from your data type names, that's going to keep you very well organized and know immediately what type of resource in your app's architecture you are working with. Is it a data type or an option set? So I do recommend that you get into the habit of having a way to keep them apart. The next tool that we want to point out that can really make a huge difference in navigating your editor is the App Search tool. This is the magnifying glass that you can find in the upper right corner here. You can search your entire application by all of the different types of elements and messages available to you in the overall structure. So for example, if I want to see everywhere in my application that uses a particular field, that references a field, okay, so for example, the user's first name, I can hit search and Bubble's going to search the entire app. It will show me all references and tell me, is this within an action? Is this within a visual element, just a design? What is the name of the thing involved? And then what page is it on? You can see there's the name of the pages on the right. There's a quick count of the things that involve this field. Again, this could be part of a workflow, could be part of a condition, or just a reference in a design. I can also filter down my search so that it only searches the page that I'm currently on. So actually, in this case, there are no references to the user's first name on this particular index V2 page that I have here. If I uncheck that, it's going to search the entire application. And of course, if I click on one of those instances, it's going to take me right to it. You see how it not only jumped from the design tab to the workflow tab, but it highlighted the workflow event, highlighted the action, and I can see very easily here that we are referencing the current users. We've got the full name here. Where is my current user's first name? Let's see, this is the manager's first name. Oh, there it is. Yes, because a manager is a user. The manager's first name is being referenced there. And that's another way to kind of find things that might not be super obvious to you. You know, under the company record, the manager, which is technically a user, is labeled as manager, not as user. And so it might not be super obvious that we're working with the user's first name from this expression alone. Okay. Notice that when I right click, I don't get those reveal the elements because here we're not referencing like specific visual elements on the page. If I go to, you know, this button, I can reveal the element and I can get to that button there because that is a visual element that is triggering that workflow. All this to say, your app search tool is incredibly powerful. I just showed you one example here. I do encourage you to remember that this is here. Play around with this, especially once you have more items in your application. This is going to become much more helpful for you to find where things are, not only by fields, but also, you know, action types. Maybe I want to see everywhere that is sending an email. In my application. It's going to show me all those places that are sending emails just in general. Maybe I need to make a mass change to all of those actions. So that can be incredibly helpful. The next thing I want to point out is the Element Inspector tool. So that is this window. If you pull up the property editor for any visual element on your design, open up the inspector by clicking on the eye, you have a number of sections here to help locate anywhere that is referencing this element that we're on right now. Let me actually go to one that may have a bit more detail here. Let's go back to our index page. Let's see if this group sign up. That has a few. Let's check out our main page here. That doesn't have anything. Our main container. Well, I guess we can use our sign up group. This one has enough. So the sign up group is being referenced in 3 actions in the workflow. There's 2 workflows that are going to hide the sign up. And again, if I click on this, it will take me right to it, right? Here's where we're hiding the sign up group. I can go to the next one as well. And it's going to take me to that other workflow. It looks like I already have an account, right? Because it's toggling between the login and the sign up group. So there's another place for it. And the idea here is that you can see anything that references this element, in this case, group sign up. So whether it's actions or events, so maybe there's a condition on the event, or when the group is clicked, that's going to be considered an event, or if I've created custom states on this element. This is a really popular one, actually, if you're a heavy user of custom states. Where you save that state matters because in some cases you may not be able to access it. For example, if you're in a reusable element or inside of a repeating group cell. And you generally just need a place to manage all of your states, right? If I create a state here, let's just say we have a state called tab, and this is a number, keeping track of what tab we're on. Here I can define the default value, I can make it a list, I can change the format, I can change the state name, or I can delete it, right? So all of those states are managed on this particular group. If I go to another element and go to its inspector, I'm not going to see the same states because the states are uniquely located on those elements. Now, there is a lot of strategy around custom states, and we do go over that in a separate lesson, so you can watch that. But the idea of the inspector is to help you understand everywhere that is referencing the element that you're looking at. This can be super helpful if you're troubleshooting or if you're deciding whether it's safe to delete the element, and you want to make sure that you haven't missed any areas that are still dependent on it, right? It needs to be safe to remove without creating other issues. Okay, now the last thing that I want to show you as a quick shortcut to help you speed up your development is creating workflows from changes to inputs. Now with buttons and text, we have a nice shortcut button right here in the property editor, right? So on the sign up button, I can start and edit a workflow and it will begin a workflow for me automatically. Now I actually already have one, so Bubble's just taking me to that existing one. I can do the same thing with text. So maybe I wanted to trigger a workflow the moment that this text is clicked. So I'll begin by clicking on the shortcut button right there. And you can see Bubble has automatically created an event with that text selected. Now, there is no equivalent to that with inputs. And sometimes you may want a workflow to start the moment an input's value has changed. So notice here, I have this input selected. We don't have that button. There is another shortcut for this. If you right click and go to the very bottom, you can start edit workflow from there. This is not an obvious one, but it is one that I use all the time. Right clicking, start edit workflow to begin an event the moment the input's value is changed. Of course, I can go the long way around. I can add an event from scratch. I can go to Elements, select an input's value has changed, and then I need to select the actual input involved. Or I can save myself a couple clicks, right-click the input directly, and select that Start Edit Workflow action. It will do this kind of all for me. Again, it may seem like a very minor difference, only a couple clicks of a difference, but as a Power Bubble user, who needs to move through their development more effectively, more efficiently, it does make a huge difference. So hopefully those things will help you move through your development in a much smarter way. You can spend more time on actually building out your application versus hunting things down. And the more you do it and create the habit around those things, the more they'll become second nature, and you'll be flying through like a Bubble Pro in no time.